The rain was a living thing, clawing at my windshield, blurring the world into streaks of gray. My car, a 2003 sedan named Ruby for its chipped red paint, groaned, sputtered, and died on the shoulder of a lonely Oregon highway. I was 25, broke, and 300 miles from the life I'd left behind in Seattle, chasing a dream that felt more like a fever. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, the thud swallowed by the storm. No cell service, no map, just me and Ruby, stranded in the middle of nowhere. Then, through the haze, amber lights pulsed like a heartbeat. A tow truck rolled to a stop behind me, its engine growling low. The driver stepped out, his silhouette cutting through the rain. A man about 30, broad-shouldered, with a face that looked like it had seen too many long nights. "Need a hand," he called, voice steady despite the downpour. His name was Caleb, stitched in red on his leather jacket. I nodded, too tired to play tough. "Name's Elias," I said, my voice cracking. He gave me a look, half pity, half something I couldn't place, and got to work under Ruby's hood. The rain soaked us both, but Caleb didn't flinch. His hands moved with quiet confidence, like he'd been born fixing broken things. "Alternators shot," he said after a few minutes, wiping his hands on a rag. "I can tow you to my shop in Mill Creek, about 10 miles up. No charge for the tow." I blinked. "No charge? You don't even know me." He shrugged, his hazel eyes catching the light. "Don't need to. You're stuck. I'm here. That's enough." Something about his voice, gruff but warm, made my chest tighten. I climbed into the cab of his tow truck, the air thick with the scent of oil and pine. As we drove, the silence wasn't awkward, but it carried weight. I stole glances at him. The faint scar above his eyebrow, the way his jaw tensed when he thought I wasn't looking. Mill Creek was a speck of a town, all weathered storefronts and flickering neon. Caleb's shop was a squat brick building with a sign that read Hank's Auto and Tow. He led me inside, where the hum of fluorescent lights mixed with the clink of tools. "You can crash here tonight," he said, pointing to a cot in the back. "Storm's too bad to drive." I hesitated. "You sure?" "I don't want to." "Elias," he cut in, his voice softer now. "Stay." That one word hit me harder than it should have. I nodded, my throat tight, and watched him disappear into the shop. I didn't know it yet, but that night would unravel everything I thought I knew about myself and about him. The cot smelled like motor oil and regret, but it was better than the rain. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Caleb clank around in the shop. Every so often, his shadow passed the doorway, and I wondered what kind of man offers a stranger a bed without asking questions. By morning, the storm had eased to a drizzle. I found Caleb under Ruby's hood again, his sleeves rolled up, forearms smudged with grease. "You didn't have to start so early," I said, rubbing sleep from my eyes. "Couldn't sleep," he replied, not looking up. "Figured I'd get a head start." I watched him work, the way his hands moved with purpose, like he was solving a puzzle only he could see. "You always this nice to stranded idiots?" I asked, trying to lighten the mood. He smirked, finally meeting my gaze. "Only the ones who look like they're running from something." My stomach dropped. "What makes you think I'm running? Your car's packed with everything you own, and you've got that look, like you're one bad day from breaking." I wanted to argue, but he wasn't wrong. I'd left Seattle after a fight with my dad, the kind that leaves scars deeper than words. He'd called my dreams of being a musician a phase, my identity a choice. I'd packed Ruby and driven south, no plan, just a need to breathe. Caleb didn't press. Instead, he handed me a coffee from a thermos, the warmth seeping into my hands. "Tell me about it," he said, leaning against the workbench. "If you want." I don't know why I did, but I told him. About the gigs that never paid, the family that never understood, the way I'd always felt like I was hiding a piece of myself. I didn't say I was bi, not yet, but the words hovered, heavy and unspoken. He listened, his face unreadable. When I finished, he said, "I get it. More than you know." "What's that mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, then pulled a small photo from his wallet. A younger Caleb, arm around a guy with bright eyes and a wide smile. This was Jamie, he said. We were everything. Until we weren't. The air shifted, like the world had tilted. I didn't ask what happened to Jamie. The pain in Caleb's voice told me enough. The next 2 days blurred together. Caleb worked on Ruby while I helped where I could, fetching tools, holding flashlights, trying not to stare too long at the way his shoulders moved under his shirt. Mill Creek felt like a bubble, a place where time didn't matter. But the bubble wasn't safe. On the third night, we sat on the shop's front steps, sharing a six-pack Caleb had pulled from a mini fridge. The stars were sharp, the air cool. You ever think about going back? He asked, his voice low. To Seattle? I shook my head. Nothing there for me. He nodded, like he understood too well. I stayed here after Jamie. Thought it'd be easier to hide. Hide from what? Myself. This town, it's not exactly a rainbow parade. Jamie was out, proud. I wasn't ready. Still don't know if I am. His words hit me like a punch. I'd spent years dodging questions about who I was, what I wanted. But here was Caleb, laying it bare, his voice raw with truth. You loved him, I said, not a question. Still do, he admitted. But love doesn't fix everything. I wanted to ask more, but a pickup truck roared into the lot, headlights blinding. 3 guys climbed out, their laughter sharp and mean. Caleb, one called, a burly man with a beard like steel wool. Heard you got a guest. Hope he's not too pretty for you. Caleb's jaw tightened. Go home, Roy, he said, standing. Roy smirked, stepping closer. Just checking on our favorite grease monkey. Wouldn't want you getting distracted. The air crackled with threat. I stood, my heart pounding. Caleb's hand brushed mine, a fleeting signal, stay calm. But I saw the fear in his eyes, and it mirrored my own. Roy and his crew didn't stay long, but their words lingered like smoke. Caleb locked the shop, his hands shaking slightly. They're just drunk, he muttered, but I could tell he didn't believe it. You okay? I asked, following him inside. He didn't answer, just grabbed another beer and sank onto the cot. This town's got eyes, he said finally. Always watching, judging. I sat beside him, close enough to feel the heat of his arm. You don't owe them anything. Maybe not, but they make it hard to forget. We talked late into the night, the conversation weaving between our pasts and the weight of who we were. Caleb told me about Jamie, how they'd met at a bar in Portland, how Jamie's laugh could light up a room, how he died in a car accident 2 years ago. Caleb blamed himself, said he should have been there. I told him about my dad, how his disappointment felt like a knife, how I'd dated women to keep him happy, but men were where my heart raced. Saying it out loud felt like shedding skin. You ever tell him? Caleb asked. Once. Didn't go well. He nodded, his hand resting on the cot, inches from mine. I wanted to close the gap, but fear held me back. Instead, I asked, what's it like? Being out here alone? Quiet, he said. Too quiet sometimes. The next morning, Ruby was fixed. Caleb handed me the keys, his fingers brushing mine. You're good to go, he said, but his eyes said something else. Stay. I didn't want to leave. Not yet. But Roy's truck rolled by the shop again that afternoon, slower this time, like a warning. I stayed another night, telling myself it was because of the rain. But it was Caleb, his quiet strength, the way he looked at me like he saw more than I wanted to show. We worked side by side in the shop, the rhythm of it comforting, like a song we both knew by heart. That evening, he took me to a diner down the road, a place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like tar. We sat in the back, away from prying eyes. You don't belong here, he said, stirring his coffee. This town'll chew you up. Maybe I'm tougher than I look, I shot back, half smiling. He laughed, a sound that warmed me more than the coffee. Maybe you are. But the warmth didn't last. Roy was at the counter, his eyes locked on us. When we left, he followed, his truck idling behind us as we walked back to the shop. "You're making a mistake, Caleb," he called out, his voice slurred but sharp. Caleb kept walking, his hand on my elbow, guiding me forward. "Ignore him," he whispered, but I felt the tension in his grip, the fear he wouldn't name. Back at the shop, he locked the doors and turned off the lights. "They won't do anything," he said, but it sounded like he was convincing himself. "Then why are you scared?" I asked, stepping closer. He looked at me, his eyes raw. "Because I'm not ready to lose someone else." The air between us crackled. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly his hands were on my face, his lips on mine, desperate and hungry. The kiss was a storm, pulling me under, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. The kiss changed everything. We didn't talk about it, but it hung between us, electric and fragile. The next day, Caleb was quieter, his eyes darting to the windows every time a car passed. I wanted to tell him I felt it too. The pull, the fear, the need, but words felt too small. Roy came back that night, this time with a bat. He didn't swing it, just tapped it against his palm, standing outside the shop. "You're pushing it, Caleb," he said through the glass. "People talk. You want that kind of trouble?" Caleb faced him, unflinching. "Go home, Roy. You're drunk." Roy laughed, low and ugly, then drove off. But the threat lingered, a shadow we couldn't shake. "We should leave," I said later, as we sat on the cot, our knees touching. Both of us. Somewhere new. He shook his head. "This is my home, Elias. I can't run. But you're not safe here." He looked at me, his eyes soft but resolute. "I've been hiding too long. If I leave, they win." I wanted to argue, but his strength silenced me. Instead, I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. "Then I'm staying too." He pulled away, standing. "You don't know what you're saying. This town, it's not kind to people like us." "People like us," I repeated, the words heavy. "You mean people who love who they want?" He froze, then nodded. "Yeah, that." The next morning, I found a note taped to Ruby's windshield. "Leave, or you'll regret it." My blood ran cold, but I didn't tell Caleb. I didn't want to break what we'd built, fragile as it was. The note burned a hole in my pocket, but I kept quiet. Caleb was already on edge, checking the locks twice, his laughter replaced by silence. I couldn't leave him, not now, not ever. But Mill Creek was closing in, its judgment sharper than any knife. That night, we sat on the shop's roof, the stars brighter than ever. "If you could go anywhere," I asked, "where would you go?" He thought for a moment. "San Francisco. Jamie always talked about it. Said it was a place where you could be yourself." "Then let's go," I said, my voice fierce. "We'll figure it out. Together." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "You do that? For me? For us?" He kissed me then, softer this time, like a promise. But the moment shattered when headlights swept across the lot. Roy's truck again. This time, he wasn't alone. 2 others were with him, their faces shadowed. Caleb stood, pulling me behind him. "Stay here," he whispered, but I followed him down to the lot. Roy stepped forward, the bat in his hand. "Told you to be careful, Caleb. Now look at you." "Get off my property," Caleb said, his voice steel. Roy laughed, raising the bat. I didn't think, just acted. I grabbed a wrench from the shop and stood beside Caleb, my heart pounding. "You want him, you go through me," I said. Roy hesitated, his eyes flickering. Then he lowered the bat. "You're not worth it," he spat, turning away. His crew followed, their truck peeling out into the night. We stood there, breathing hard, the wrench still in my hand. Caleb turned to me, his face a mix of fear and awe. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yeah, I did." The next morning, we packed Ruby with what little we had. Caleb locked the shop, leaving a note for the next owner. We didn't talk about San Francisco again, but as we drove west, his hand found mine, and I knew we'd find our place. Not just a city, but a home, wherever we could be us, unapologetically. The road stretched ahead, endless and open, and for the first time, I wasn't running from something. I was running toward it.